Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and welcome to a new series called Manufacturing Mondays, because we're going to be building a Power Functions powered factory. I've had increasing numbers of questions over recent weeks as to what my next series is going to be, and I gave ever increasingly clear hints in my mind to people, and a few of you got all the way there, that we're going to be building a factory. So I did want to spend a little bit of time before we started the actual build as going through the reasons why I'd chosen that and what the plans were for actually doing it. So first of all, I think the main reason was that I wanted to get more industrial type buildings into my city. The majority of the city as it currently stands is commercial stuff, so lots of businesses, shops, restaurants and all the rest of it, with minifigures enjoying themselves doing the shopping and, and eating out and all the rest of it. And long-time viewers will know that I don't like to put a lot of residential in my city because I find it the most boring. I mean, it's just homes after all. So I tend to confine that to the bits that I've already got in modulars, that are Lego modulars, and the facades on the very edge of my city setup, because it's less of a waste of space in my mind. But the third main area of sort of buildings that you can get in a city is industrial. Anyone who's played SimCity, as I used to on the computer, will know that that's the third sort of main zoning choice that you can have. And it consists of things like factories and warehouses and stuff like that. And that can be very interesting as well. And it's definitely part of a modern city. So I do have some industrial areas, like I'm going to have a large cargo area for the train cargo sort of depot. I've got the main harbour itself, which is full of cranes and all the rest of that industrial kit. But what I don't have is a, well, factory that I want to have right in the middle of my city. And maybe it's been there for longer than a lot of the buildings around it as well. So it could be a really old one that's been refurbished over the years for maybe a long-standing successful business. So yeah, so that's the first reason. Let's get some more industrial sort of settings into my city. The other thing was I wanted to use more power functions. And that's just because it gets a lot more motion into the city. And whenever I do my tours or something, it's always the monorail and the trains and stuff like that that brings all of the interest to the city. It just brings it alive. So we will have a fairground that's going to be fully motorized as well. We will get there one day. Trust me. But I thought that having a motorized factory would be a really interesting thing, because we could actually see the factory working with machines whirring and all the rest of it. So I think that's a really good idea to add to a factory. And the third main reason was that I loved watching GBC videos. Now, if you don't know what Lego GBC is, it stands for Great Ball Contraptions. And these are basically brick-built modules that pass balls to each other around a big loop, hence the name Great Ball Contraptions. And they do this in really innovative ways, picking them up and firing them across distances and lots of different ramps and all the rest of it. And if you haven't seen those videos, I really recommend checking it out. You can just Google Lego GBC or put that in the search bar above, after you finish this video, of course. And the whole thing is wonderful in the sense that it's completely pointless, because you put a lot of these modules in a great big loop, so the balls just all end up where they started, essentially. But I think that entirely pointless pursuit is beautifully captivating. I think you will enjoy them, or probably do if you know about them already. So I thought the only way of getting GBC into my city was to make the factory kind of like a GBC factory, because otherwise I can't really scratch that GBC itch, and I'm sure a lot of you don't want me to stop developing the city, Brick Nottingham. You want me to not go off on a massive tangent for a few months. So the only way I can really do all these things together is by having the power functions within my factory build. Right, so we've established the reasons why I want to do this build, but I think we need to develop the idea a little bit further. And if we're going to have a factory with loads of balls running around the inside of it, it only really makes sense if those balls are the product being made by the factory, because otherwise, well, why are there loads of balls running around this factory? So the balls I'm going to be using are these. And these are exactly the same size as Lego footballs and basketballs, except they're a lot more varied in colour. And these are often used by GBC people at fairs just because, well, they're a lot cheaper and a lot easier to come by. You can get them on Amazon, like these ones here, Quercetti refill marbles, 14mm, for £8 for 100. And that's a lot cheaper than the £1, £2, or even £3 for an official Lego one. So I think it's a reasonable deviation in this case to not use official Lego parts because these are much more colourful and do exactly the same function. Yeah, so this is going to be a factory that makes giant balls. So I thought the name of GBC could actually be used for my factory as well. And we could call this the GBC factory, but I don't want GBC to still stand for Great Ball Contraption. I thought it could stand for something else. So I decided to call my business the Ginormous Ball Corporation, which is quite a fun name, I think. Still stands GBC, doesn't it? So the Ginormous Ball Corp will have their head office and main factory in Brick Nottingham. And I think they're a world famous company and supply balls far and wide, because after all, these balls are quite ginormous when compared to a normal minifigure. Much bigger than your head, kind of like a beach ball, I suppose. So we've got the product, we've got the name, so now I think we just need to have a plan that involves as many sort of GBC-esque functions as possible within our build. Now, because I'm going to be confining this to a 16 by 32 stud base plate so it can be seen in full, there's a limit to how much funky GBC functions we can manage to squeeze in, quite frankly, because a lot of them, although absolutely amazing and I'd love to have them in, are just going to require too much mechanical gubbins to fit in practically into my building. And the reason for having it on a very sort of small, I suppose, base plate of 16 by 32 is A, because you know I love density in my city, B, I don't want this to take up a huge amount of space in my city at the expense of doing other things like museums and more restaurants and stuff like that, but also because I want it to be open backed. And the reason for that is I'm going to have it on that row of buildings that's next to my hospital. So it actually backs onto the second standing hole. So from the main viewing angle, all you'll be able to see is the front of it. But from the back, you'll be able to see all these wonderful GBC workings and whirring devices and machines and so on in their full glory, and be able to really sort of enjoy the insides of it as well. Because if we just close this in, it just won't be half the fun. And with that in mind, I think we really want to have a lot of glass on the front as much as possible as well, so we can still see the balls whizzing around on the inside of the factory from the first standing hole and the door when we come into the Lego room. Otherwise, well, it's all lost. You'll just hear this strange whirring noise and you won't know what's going on at all. So I think that's really important, that the insides of this building are visible absolutely as much as possible. And then when it comes to enclosing this building, I want to do it in some really lovely old looking brick, because real life Nottingham's got a load of old factories, and they're all done in those lovely Victorian sort of era or Georgian era bricks of sort of dark red. And that's why I've been buying all the dark red bricks for the outside of this build, because I want it to look like a very old factory, like the ones in real life Nottingham, that were done in an age where they really did make some beautiful factory buildings that were mills or making lace. Nottingham's very famous for lace in the olden days, textiles and even bicycles. So yeah, I want to make a very dark red brick ornate factory exterior as well. Right, so let's get on to the specifics of the plan, and for this I want to go into LDD to show you what I'm going to try and do. Okay, so here we are in Lego Digital Designer, the program that I just can't seem to leave behind, even though it's no longer supported, just because I'm just too fast and efficient in it really, so I continue to use it. But today it's just to show you the rough outline of my plans. So this is not to scale or anything else. I'm using this base plate on the bottom just to represent the 16 by 32 base plate that I'll be using for my build. And this represents the tower that will be the lift shaft on one side of the building that lifts the balls all the way from the bottom right up to the top. And if I just remove these two bricks, this is where the balls will enter the lift shaft at the bottom, and they'll be conveyed all the way to the top where they'll be spat out. So I reckon that entire tower will be about 4 stories worth of a Lego building, so it'll be quite tall. Maybe not as tall as my hospital, but definitely not a short building at all. So if we move on to the next step, you'll see this colourful setup. So what I envisage on the top of the tower is kind of a machine, a manufacturing great big hulk of a machine that is supposedly manufacturing these balls, probably out of plastic or goodness knows what. And that's going to have lots of pipes and engine bits and whirring wheels and gears and so on. That's very visible. And it's very important that the lift shaft it hasn't got any transparent pieces in it, so we don't actually see the balls going up through this lift shaft, and it actually appears to us that they are being produced by this machine at the top. And then they'll be spat out by the machine onto the first of these ramps, and that's what these balls, these red things represent. They're kind of balls that have been produced, and they'll kind of slide down this combination of different ramps all the way back to the bottom. Now, these ramps won't be as simple as they are here by any means. They'll be as interesting as I can make them, really, within the confines of the building. But they'll represent things like, I don't know, a science testing bit where we've got the lady scientist, a manufacturing worker, doing all of her tests to check that the ball's the right thickness and the right weight and stuff like that. Then we might have a quality control department or something where a man with a clipboard is sort of ticking off the number being produced or something like that. And maybe at the top there's men with great big spanners and wrenches kind of maintaining the machine or something like that. So essentially we'll have balls popping out the top, running through all of these different visible departments with a kind of head office maybe on the ground floor, and then the balls will go back into the bottom of the lift shaft to go all the way back up to the top and complete the cycle. So then we wonder how we're going to get the balls up to the top. Well, there's 2 methods that generally get used in GBC. The first is a ball pump, which essentially has a column of balls all on top of each other, and it forces another ball into the bottom of that column, and then the one at the top kind of has to fall out at the very top, thus producing another one to go down to the bottom and be forced in the bottom. Now, they are very noisy devices, if I'm honest with you, and they're quite bulky and less discreet than what I'm looking for, so I'm not going to use that. The method I'm going to use is much the same as the conveyor that I used on my Venus Fly Drop ride for my fairground, if you've seen that video. And it's just basically a gear at the bottom and another gear at the top, which I haven't included here, and some belt pieces that are going to be a conveyor belt that's working vertically. And that will basically have, if we peer inside, little hooks on it that fit into the bits of the belt, and each of those will pick up a ball that's kind of waiting at the bottom of the tower and take it all the way up to the top where it can get spat out. And we can add as many of these hooks as we want to basically speed up how many balls are being picked up, or slow them down if we want to have fewer of them. And then obviously the hook will come all the way around again and pick up another ball that's waiting for it. So I think that will be a lot simpler and, more importantly, a lot quieter for our process, and a lot more compact as well, actually, and probably more reliable. There's a lot of adjectives, yes, so amongst other things, it will be more reliable, compact, small, and whatever else the other one was. So yeah, I think that'll work really well, and the balls won't fall out because they're constrained on the other 3 sides by all these bricks. So because we won't be able to see that process going on at all, it will still appear like the balls are being produced by this machine at the top and then going down here. But to complete the illusion, what we really need at the bottom, and I've just mocked up a very, very, very crude lorry or van at the bottom, or truck if you're American, is a device at the bottom to be sort of apparently collecting all of these balls. So it'll look like the balls are being produced at the top by this manufacturing machine, then it'll go through all the departments, and then they'll all apparently stop as they're loaded onto this truck. But what will really be happening is they'll be going straight through the truck and actually reloading the conveyor to take them back up to the top. And I think that is a really sort of interesting plan, that when we sort of hide all of the joins like this, that all you'll see is this truck being loaded up by a seemingly infinite number of balls that this machine at the top is producing. And obviously in real life, this one would depart and a new truck would come in or whatever. But I think that'll be a really good illusion of a kind of linear process that'll actually, in reality, be a circular one. So hopefully my description has made sense. So I think we better get on to actually doing some bricks. Right, so this is practically impossible to show you on my building desk, which is rather annoying, just because of the sheer size of the thing. So to look at the top, we're going to have to sort of pull it forward, and to show you the bottom, we're probably going to have to push it back, which is a bit annoying, but there's no real way around that. And the camera is right in front of me and my face, so I'm probably going to knock it a lot. It won't work well at all, but let's give it a go. So I've built this to start with out of rainbow bricks, and that's because this is going to be really hard to do on Lego Digital Designer because of all the moving parts and all of the subtleties and the kind of the testing that needs to be done throughout the build, because what looks like it might work probably won't in real life. So this is one of the few times I'm actually going to be building a big series build in MOC first, a real MOC, MOCK MOC first, just so I can prove that it does work before I actually then build it in really a nice way, using all of those lovely dark red bricks and with the colours that I do want to finally use, because I think there's going to be a lot of fettling and getting it right. But just to show you what I've done for the first stage, you can see I've got this belt in on these gears, and it goes round, and every now and then you'll see there's one of the wider track pieces, and they're the ones that have got the space for the little horn piece, and some of it's brown links and some of it's black links, but it doesn't matter because we're not going to see any of this. In fact, well, everything's in rainbow brick anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So I've got about 5 of these, I think it is, kind of equally spaced on this setup, going round and round to pick up balls from the bottom in here and take them all the way to the top. So at the moment there's a couple of modified plates that you might be able to see in there that basically can take one of these balls in a kind of a resting position. Don't know if I'm able to get that in with my fingers. There you are. So you can see it's holding that quite firmly. Don't know if you can see that actually, but believe me, it is. It's kind of on top of those. You can just see the bottom of it there. And that hook is going to hook it. Let's try and do it manually, shall we? Oh no, it's rolled out. Let's put that back in. So it's going to hook it and pull it all the way up to the top. So you can actually see that there. Can you see that through the gap? Being pulled up, being confined by the bricks here on the sides and on the back. And then it is going to basically come to the top and spit itself out. So that is the first stage. And what I need to do this to make it automated is not just add a motor, but I'm going to add this rainbow brick hopper, and I'm basically going to jam this in to here like this, and this so I can pour the balls into here and they'll just roll down this ramp and kind of be like an automatic feeder for the bottom of the device. And then I've got my battery box here that I can take this off and put in there. And then this can clip right onto the gear at the bottom. Right, so here we are. So we'll try it with one ball to start with. And this is where I probably knocked the camera. And we'll turn it on. And, oh, God. So that was quick, wasn't it? So it kind of, did it accept it? There we go. Go and pick that up again. And, whoa! Right, I've lost that. No, I haven't. I've got it. So you can see it's quite vigorous. See, there we go. I could catch it and put it back in the hopper. So if I try and catch them with my plastic tub, oh golly, I didn't even mean to do that. You can see this is going to be a disaster. So I'm going to need to get ready to catch these. Oh, here we go. See if I can catch them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no, they're stuck at the top. That's why. 6, 7, 8. Hey, so that is Rather successful, I must say. First stage of my factory, the lift shaft that's got the conveyor in it. Well, we've got to do that again, haven't we? So I'm going to actually put these in and ensure they've all made their way down, because this is a great thing about the testing. You've got to be able to make sure that there's no area where they're getting stuck. So that's fully loaded, so I can turn this on and catch them again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is working pretty well, I think you'll agree. And you probably want to see it on full pelt, don't you? Because that is not at full speed. So let's reload this. Everyone always wants to see things on full speed. So let's see, which way do I have to turn this to make it go faster? That way, I think. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, yeah, and the one that fell down here. So yeah, it still works on full speed. Awesome. Now, although I enjoyed all those balls being catapulted out kind of at a 45-degree angle and at great speed, I think we're going to have to moderate that quite a lot in order to be, well, more realistic and more manageable in our actual factory setting. So what I've added is a couple of panels here that are supporting a little bit of a roof piece effectively. So the balls will come out of this at the same sort of 45-degree angle and speed, hit that and kind of get moderated quite a bit and kind of fall out more horizontally and at a much more reasonable pace. And I did these deliberately in clear because I thought we might want a window into the machine when it's all looking good with all of its pipes and whistles and bells all over it. So I'm just going to put the container here just to try and catch the balls that should come out a lot less quickly. I've already loaded it. There we go. See, I think that is a lot more manageable. I agree it's a lot less fun, but we just aren't going to be able to control it at the other rate. So yeah, stage 1 complete. Now I think the next stage, stage 2, will be doing our first kind of horizontal setup in the factory. And for that, we're going to basically be starting from this point, obviously where the board's coming out, and going along the full length of the building. So we've got, well, 32 studs to play with if we're measuring from the back of the lift shaft. And I think to use most of the room that we've got, we may as well have something horizontal. And we've also got, of course, a spinning gear in this setup here, in there, and a spinning axle as a result. It's just dragged round by the one at the bottom. It's not motorized up here. But that can provide us with a lot of motion. So I think the second stage could basically be driven by that, by having loads of gears interlocking that would be very visible and be the sort of whirring sides of the machine, and link and maybe power a horizontal conveyor as well. And that could be our starting point for then the more gravity fed later bits. So what I'm going to do now is design in rainbow brick again a kind of horizontal conveyor belt that can be, I don't know, part of the production line. Well, all right. Now that took quite a while to do and construct, and you can see that I've just got a complete mess of all sorts of different types of bricks all over the place just to try and make this work. And now the final one will obviously look really neat. It'll only have the bricks that I actually need to make it all work. But for now, we've got an absolute assortment. So let me give you a quick guided tour of what I've done. We'll start up here at the top left. So this is the axle here that we had before, completely unchanged. And this now, this gear, will turn when our motor turns and our conveyor turns. And that will turn this one, which will turn this one, which will turn this one. And if I just take that off again, actually, you'll see that they will power this horizontal conveyor belt here at the top. Now, I'm not going to have it all conveyor belts. I think we've got a vertical one and we've now got a horizontal one. So that'll be it for conveyor belts. The rest will be gravity fed, I think. But you can see what I'm going for. And I think it would be a shame to not use that power source to give it a bit more momentum after it's done its vertical lift. So this is the beginnings of the manufacturing machine we discussed earlier. And there's the sort of viewing port that you can kind of look through to see the balls as they pop up. But I've made the tunnel little bit longer, so we've got a more substantial machine, and they really are coming out horizontally by the time they leave. And for now, I've just put loads of engine parts and exhausts and things like that on, just to give it a bit of a kind of character, really. And maybe it'd be a sort of big Bertha type machine, I don't know. So there's the conveyor then, all the way along there. And you can see that I've added these Bionicle arm type pieces that I got a while back on a haul. And I always intended for them to be robotic arms in a factory. I think I even said that at the time. So I've kind of mounted them all at different angles using these Technic connectors, and here I've done them with modified plates. I haven't decided how I'm going to do the final ones yet, but maybe this is the bit of the automated line where the robotic arms are helping manufacture these balls. Now, obviously, ginormous balls aren't usually manufactured by robotic arms, so we're not going for realism here. This is Lego, so I don't want any realism type comments. We're having a big machine that makes balls with the help of robotic arms. Fact. So anyway, the balls will then go along this conveyor belt and fall down this hole to the next layer. Now, I haven't done the next layer yet, but what I have done, just so we've got continuity of a complete circuit, is just made this very kind of rough basket that will collect the balls as they fall through that hole. They'll roll down a slope through another hole there and refeed our hopper. Now, the odd ball does escape, so it's not perfect by any means at the moment. We do want it to be perfect in final guise, because we don't want to lose any balls and have to fish them out or anything. We want it nice and reliable. But at the moment, most of them go through that hole, down there, through that hole, and into the hopper for another loop. And I've also started incorporating our battery box. So you can see that's on its end in there. So we've got the button there, which will be built fully in, and I can still recharge this battery because it's one of those older rechargeable ones that are really good if you can get your hands on. 8878 is the number. And then the motor is also concealed, if you can just see it, in there behind these panel pieces. And that's to continue the illusion that there isn't a lift shaft here at all. This will just be, I don't know, a control area or something like that. And this will just be, I don't know, the lift shaft for employees to get to the relevant floor of their work. I don't know. So there we go. There is our stage 2. So I think you'll agree that's looking a lot more factory-y. And it might be that the actual final one is a lot taller than this. I don't know exactly yet. We'll have to see what will fit in all of this space. Right, so you'll be wanting another trial run. Well, I've loaded it up. Let me see, what's the best angle for you to see it at? Something like that, maybe? So let's give that a whirl. So there we are. Hey. We haven't even lost one there. We've lost the white one. But you can see we've got this continuous motion of balls. Sorry, it is very noisy. We've lost another one, I think. So we're down to 6. But this is the beginnings of exactly what I wanted to happen. And if we make the final one, I'm just going to stop it. If we make the final one a little less noisy than this, then I think it's going to be a really, really, really fun building. So you can see why I was getting so excited over it. And I think we've got the pace about right for the speed that they're getting fired out at, because this has got the ability to change the speed just by changing this dial, and that will change the speed of the motor. But I think it's about right. And I think the frequency of how much it's spitting out is about right, because you want quite a few balls, but you don't want them to be bang, 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 bang. You kind of want 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of thing. So I think it's working rather well. So do tell me what you think. I'll be very interested to hear. But I'm pretty satisfied with this as a first stage. So I think that's all I've got time for today, because although we've only gone through the plan and done a shaft and a horizontal bit, it has taken an absolute age, and I still have to retrieve the balls that I've lost from behind my desk and on the floor wherever they've gone. So I think next time on part 2 of our Manufacturing Mondays for this GBC factory build, Ginormous Ball Corp, I think what I'll do is try and mock up basically all of the action from this hole down, zigzagging all the way to the bottom. Oh, look, there's one. and link up with the bottom of the lift shaft properly. And then from part 3 onwards, we can probably start the real life build using all those parts I've got. Awesome. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing a brick haul. Then on Friday, we'll be in Brick Nottingham for a smaller one-off build, which I think will either be the monorail extension or it might even be the subway entrances, because I know a lot of you want to see those coming up from the haunted subway station. So, yeah, it'll be one of those. And then next Monday, we'll have part 2 of our Manufacturing Mondays, GBC Factory. So, see you then!